SKORs.com.
I just got a text from somebody. They will remain nameless, but let's just say they have incredible credibility when it comes to basketball. And they mentioned to me Karl-Anthony Towns. Mm-hmm. Maybe you Portland and you make a move involving Nurkic, McCollum, or whomever,
and bringing
Karl-Anthony Towns.
What?
That is so reckless right there. See,
very reckless.
Speculation.
That's the exact type of thing. That's the exact type of thing that I can't tolerate. I mean, if you don't have your sources in order, I can't tolerate that type of reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
How quickly, when that came out, by the way, that was Stephen A. Smith, the man, the myth, the reckless speculation.
Tell the people who it was.
I love how we've gotten to the point now with these national talking head morning shows. Like Shannon Sharp is just cold calling Julio Jones 2 weeks ago. Has no idea he's on TV, right? And Stephen A. Smith is just busting out text messages from executives or whatever around the league, right, on live TV. But the reaction immediately, I think, from like the Wolves blogosphere, which I love, was just, this is ridiculous. I don't know. I think we should lead our Monday statements with it, gentlemen. Little
reckless speculation.
Segment within a segment, as we like to say here on Mackey and Judd.
You've got perfectly
reckless speculation within statements. Let's hit the music. I'll start, you guys. All right. Here's my statement. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade rumors are already starting, and I think they're far-fetched, but I'm here for it. That's my statement. I think they're far-fetched, but I'm here for it. Let's start with the Stephen A. Smith thing. How much validity do you think there is to the notion that Karl-Anthony Towns, who's been playing on all these losing basketball teams, I think the perception locally is, well, they've got something brewing here. They won a bunch of games down the stretch. You got Anthony Edwards and D'Lo in the backcourt, and that thing was working. And Karl-Anthony Towns is as good as he's ever been, and Chris Finch is the straw that stirs this drink, and they just need to keep adding to, like, locally we feel like, well, there's a lot of good things happening here, but nationally they just look at this thing as either a 15-year or a 30-year dumpster fire, depending on how far back you want to go, and that it's just inevitable that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to get traded at some point. So how much validity do you think there is to just random people texting Stephen A., yeah, Cat's gone.
Well, to go that far, no, but I do think that I think it's plausible to say that there are definitely conversations and phone calls, and that the Wolves are probably going to get a ton of phone calls about Cat, because it does make sense to look at the Wolves as a dumpster fire and be like, well, you've got your key piece in Ant, and so is Karl really your key piece as well, or what? Yeah. Now, I think what he's getting is very much like the Twins and Barrio stuff. I think it's intelligence that isn't coming from the team itself. It's coming from outside, but that doesn't mean that the calls aren't being made. So do I think it's made up? Absolutely not. I think that there are calls, and I do think a lot of teams are probably going to inquire about Cat, especially, again, because there's probably going to be a perception, well, is this Ants team now? And if it's Ants team, does that change the dynamic for Cat? But yeah, I, like you, have no real concern or thought that trade would happen during the course of this summer. But I do think there's going to be lots of talk about it.
By the way, in this case, you could say that the call is coming from inside the division, the Northwest Division, inside the Western Conference.
Get out of the division. That's what I've been saying for years.
Is it the Trailblazers that the Wolves have like the worst record in the world against, like in their arena? Aren't they? Isn't that a place like a house of horrors historically for the Timberwolves? I thought I remembered that Portland's always given them like insane fits.
The Wolves in general, I feel like, just don't perform well against anybody historically. The Suns early on. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Wolves had lost like their first 28 or some. They went on some ridiculous losing streak against the Suns and the Bulls, like in the 90s, before Kevin Garnett and Marbury finally put an end to it. But the Blazers have been a problem inside that arena for sure.
They have played 123 regular season games in Portland, and the Wolves had 36 victories.
Okay.
So yes,
pretty it's the Wolves,
terrible. Yes, it is.
It's the Wolves. So why are we not talking about more from a national perspective? Why is there not more conversation about what the Blazers are going to do with Dame, though? Because Dame's a great player. love him, but I feel like the way this league operates, there should be talk about what would be best for him and where he should play. So this must be the last stand of how can we get him more pieces. And now that Stotts is gone as coach. And by the way, just quickly, how about the fact that the NBA had 2 coaches flat out fired? The guy with Orlando, Clifford, I believe is his name, and Terry Stotts, and that both the reports were they've agreed to part company. Is that the new fired?
Agreed to part ways.
Agreed to part.
Listen,
Yeah.
Terry Stotts, we've had one of the most clutch and best players in modern NBA history, and can't get out of our own way. Now, I will say, I don't know what else Terry Stotts is supposed to do when C.J. McCollum, who's a good player, is the second best player on that team for years. So I get the logic as people start to piece together how can the Blazers help Dame Lillard. Well, a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns just sort of elevating the number 2 player on that team makes a lot of sense. I still don't think it makes sense for the Wolves to just trade Cat to the Blazers, even if it's a 3-way deal, for nothing. And that brings me to NBAanalysis.net for part 2 of Karl-Anthony Towns trade rumor weekend. Okay?
Reckless speculation.
Now, Stephen A. Smith is reporting buzz. NBAanalysis.net just has 5 blockbuster trades we would love to see this offseason. So this is just like their wish list of trades. And they float a couple different ones out there. I think there's a Knicks trade in there somewhere, and they get to this one. Karl-Anthony Towns to the Golden State Warriors. And I'm gonna skip. I mean, the logic is simple, right? You're gonna get Clay back, but you're kind of toward the back end of your window. And if you can, instead of tinkering around with Kelly Oubre and James Wiseman, just get a bona fide star to go with the Hall of Famers in the backcourt, right? And Draymond Green still has a couple years left. And you put Karl-Anthony Towns in the middle of that ecosystem. And the logic there is Golden State's back to being the favorite in the Western Conference. But here's the kicker. You'll never believe what the trade package is. So according to NBAanalysis.net's wish list, to get a trade finalized, James Wiseman would have to be at the forefront, which would be good for the Wolves. And Andrew Wiggins would also have to go back to the Timberwolves to make salaries work.
Wait, they
Hard
really?
no. Hard no.
No, but they really did this as a dream. So they basically don't care about the Wolves one bit. This is just how.
But they're also sending Damian Lee, Eric Paschal, and multiple first-round picks back to the Timberwolves.
okay.
So maybe this is where, like, if the only
Andrew
way,
Wiggins.
the only way I would consider this, and I think you can do this, if Golden State were to get the Wolves pick, could they send it back to the Wolves in a trade? By the way, I'm not looking to trade Karl-Anthony Towns anymore after what I saw in the last month.
Yep.
I want to go one more year for sure with this nucleus and see what happens. But
Yep.
But these are just things that I think as you look at what the national perception is of Towns and the Timberwolves, you're already seeing, like, we're one round into the NBA playoffs, and already you got talking heads and websites around just looking for ways to pull Cat away from the Timberwolves.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say nationally that the Wolves are perceived by the media as essentially a potential feeder system for the rest of the league. And so, like, if the Wolves have a player like this, it's going to be talked about. How can you get that player to a good team? So it's going to be more fun. So,
Yeah.
So if I can go second, because I'll give you a statement off of your statement. And that is this. As much as we love reckless speculation, which is fantastic, and as much as we do love trades, because trades are great, the time is not right to trade Cat. That doesn't mean it won't be eventually, and because I don't know where this is going to go. But if you look at what the Wolves have done, the fact that Chris Finch came in and did a pretty darn nice job, but didn't have a training camp and clearly didn't have much practice time, and that he's now going to have the luxury of all of those things this coming fall, and that we get to see Finch's system installed completely with Cat and Ant, D'Lo, and the fact that things are going to change greatly probably for this franchise in the next coming year or two, the timing is not right to trade Cat.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, we did an episode back in the early part of 2021 in which Cat came back from injury, and I don't think D'Lo had gone back on the injured list with the knee surgery, but it was just like at what point after half a decade, you got to win some more games. Like if he's going to be the centerpiece of your team, you got to win some more games. But I was a little early on that. I was sort of in the mode of, listen, if they want to shop him this offseason and they can get a haul for him, whatever, just make Anthony Edwards the centerpiece. But this thing just looked very intriguing with Chris Finch at the helm over the last month or so. And so we're going to get more of this. This is not going to be, I'm sure the Wolves are going to get phone calls.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, and Gerson Rosas, he's not going to be super open about this, but he is a friend of the show. Maybe we can get him on at some point.
I'll text him.
Oh, he'll tell us what's going on. I'm getting calls from, Portland, are you guys kidding? We've got calls from everybody.
Gerson just started following me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm just I'm
Oh,
always a little
that
bit
was
ashamed because
that was a drop right there.
I'm saying like I'm always a little bit ashamed in that like they're gonna be so disappointed in my accounts. I don't have any value to offer Gerson on social media.
Well,
I'm probably just gonna I'm ripping his owner.
You'll criticize
all the
his
time.
team left and right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
just gonna
fine.
be like pictures of like food and restaurants that he doesn't care about. It's just
He might care about those things though.
It
I
might.
don't think so.
Like he might actually have decided to follow you not for your sports takes at all, but for your food and restaurant takes.
guess
Oh,
it could be.
or you know what could be very concerning is if a lot of Wolves people start to follow Phil because they want to know what life is like in the Pacific Northwest.
What I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was exactly about to say.
They're
Yeah,
scouting.
like Gerson's
They're
like,
scouting. It's what-
hey Phil, do you like the place, the area that you live in? And you're like, what, Gerson? Why? I mean, you're happy in many. Well, yeah.
What are your three favorite neighborhoods to live
Yeah,
in?
but
Just asking for a
could
friend.
you go out today and find out more about the school system in Seattle for me,
Bellevue,
please?
yeah.
Could you go vet the Seattle school system for me? I mean, I'm just asking you to do that. I can't really tell you why.
Amazing. So, all right, we're going to keep getting these rumors. Sure.
Reckless
All right.
speculation.
I have a Wolves statement that I'll get into here too, and mine is don't fall into the Wolves trap. So what I mean by that is, and I know there's two decorated Wolves fans, mostly Phil here, but they went 7-6 down their last 13 games. They played 500 basketball over their last dozen games of the season. They showed some promise. They showed some life. But I mean, let's be honest, they were reeling it in against some pretty bad teams. The Wolves have done this before. I like what I've seen in Anthony Edwards. I think it's his team. I really do think this is now his team going forward, and I'm excited to see that. But I think they're still so far away, and they need like to hit a great trade or a great swing to put them even into the conversation of the top 10 of the West. So, yeah, a little maybe premature to start the Karl-Anthony Towns trade rumors, but I still think the Wolves are going to need a lot more pieces or one more integral piece to put them over the top into the conversation of being one of the best teams in the Western Conference. So, falling into that Wolves trap of, but down the stretch we looked all right, and there's been a new coach here, and like we've heard that song and dance so many times, so many Minnesota sports fans do. And I want the Wolves to be good in this town because it's good for business. But at the same time, don't fall into a Wolves trap because last season's ending, in my opinion, is classic Timberwolves fan.
Okay, and that's fair. But the other Wolves, to me, that's one Wolves trap. But then like the bigger Wolves trap is, we can't make it work with this superstar, and so I guess we'll shrug our shoulders because we're incompetent and trade him, right? Like, oh man, it really sucks that we have Kevin Garnett for 12 years and can't get out of the first round more than once. And so instead of like rolling up our sleeves and trying to find something to pair with him after Cassell and Sprewell go over the age cliff, it's like, let's try Mike James. Oh my God, it didn't work. Let's trade him, or Kevin Love. Well, Ricky Rubio can't shoot. Well, I guess we'll just trade everybody. They just be competent. Just be you've got some stars here. I think the hope here is that Anthony Edwards quickly becomes what Devin Booker has become over the last handful. Like that he just becomes this 30 points when you need it, fourth quarter clutch player that can hit from anywhere. And like you're seeing these guys, these wing players that are just sort of combo guards, and they can just drop 40 points when they need it in a big game. Donovan Mitchell with the Jazz. I want if Ant turns into that quickly, I think we're going to be talking about a team that I'm not saying wins a championship in like the next 3 to 5 years, but you're talking about a team that's going to be, especially with LeBron coming down and Steph and Clay are in their mid-30s. There's going to be room to emerge into the top 6 or 8 in the Western Conference in the next 2 years.
And there's also currently 10 spots now with the play-in. So, like, you've got a chance to get yourself into what I think we all would agree would be a productive franchise here. The thing with Cat too, though. So here's where I'm intrigued. Not just Cat on the floor as far as what he can do. I'm also very intrigued by with Ant there now, and I agree with Dex. Like, I think that the personality of this team is going to morph into Ant's team, and that process is already in place. So where I'm curious to see this play out is what's that dynamic going to be like for Cat? Because I think it's going to be freeing for Cat. I think he's going to like it. I think I don't think he's the type of person who likes the whole, this is your team, Cat, and like Butler tried to challenge him to beat that guy, and it completely backfired. Ant's not going to be a jerk here. I think Ant's just going to accept the mantle that this is his team, and it's going to allow Cat to still be a complete star player. Yeah. But as far as personality-wise, it's going to allow him to morph into a role where I think in life he's far more comfortable being. And that's part of the equation that I really want to see play out now, because Cat could be far more effective in many ways, being in that role where he's still counted upon to be really, really good, but it's not, quote unquote, Cat's team. It's going to be Ant's team because his personality is just so damn good. Yeah,
and it would obviously, if like Damian Lillard was the Batman and Cat was the Robin, that's an intriguing thing for national talking heads to speculate on, and I totally get that. Or if he was the second or third guy out in Oakland, San Francisco with Golden State. Like, I get it. I get the national speculation, but I think you owe it to Anthony Edwards to see if that scenario can play out here in the Twin Cities.